Today's video is going to be on rational numbers. So our video today is going to be a little bit mixed. We're going to do quite a few topics, all within the title rational numbers. So that will also include converting between fractions and decimals and also comparing fractions. Okay, so we've got some learning goals for today. The first is that you'll be able to differentiate between rational and irrational numbers. The second, you'll be able to write fractions as decimals. The third, write decimals as fractions. And last, you'll be able to compare fractions. Okay, so when we're talking rational versus irrational numbers, what does that actually mean? Well, rational numbers are fractions. So for instance, if we have 1/4, that's a fraction. And we can convert this fraction to a decimal, which is a terminating decimal. So 0.25. So that just means it's a decimal that stops. It has an ending. Another thing that we could have as a rational number is a fraction such as 1/3, which when we convert to a decimal is a recurring decimal. So that would be 0.3333, and that would just go on for infinity. So the way we actually write that is we will just round that and to 0.3. To show that that's a recurring decimal, we can put a dot above the 3 like that. That means that 3 continues on forever. Or instead of a dot, you can also do a line above it. It's up to you, whichever you prefer. So in comparison to that, irrational numbers are infinite non-recurring decimals. So for instance, pi. So pi is a decimal that will go on forever, 0.314, it'll go on and on for infinity. It'll be a non-recurring. So up here with our 0.3333, our 1/3, that's a recurring decimal because that pattern keeps recurring. However, with pi, the pattern doesn't reoccur. It's a non-recurring decimal, and that's what we call an irrational number. Okay, so writing fractions as decimals. So you can see here we've got 3/5, and we have to write that as a decimal. So how do you actually do that? Well, 3/5 is also the same as saying 3 divided by 5. I'll put in some decimal places here because we know we're going to get into the decimals. So 5 does not go into 3. So we can carry the 3 here. So 5 into 30, we can do that, we know that. So that will give us 6. So 3/5 as a decimal is 0.6. So 3/5 equals 0.6. Oh, that's a terrible 6, but I'm sure you follow. Okay, so the next one, we've got 3 3/8. Now, because we've got a whole number at the front, we know it's going to be 3 point something. We just have to work out what the something is. So again, we can do some division here. It's going to do 3 divided by 8. And put our zeros in because we might need some. Okay, so obviously it doesn't go in, 8 does not go into 3 with carry our 3 here, sorry. So then we've got 30 divided by 8. And we know that we can do that. And 30 divided by 8 is 3. So that's 6 left over. There we go. And then we can do 60 divided by 8, which is mental blank. So 60 divided by 8, what's that? 7. Okay. 4 left over, and then 40 divided by 8 is 5. So this will give us an answer of 3.375. So that's how we can convert from a fraction to a decimal. We just do the division there, and that will give us our answer. Okay, the next one is going the opposite way. We're starting with a decimal, and we're going to turn that into a fraction. So the first thing that I'm going to get you to do is count how many places there are. So this has got 1, 2, 3. So we know we're dealing with hundreds. And then we write our decimal at the top, which was 25. We're just kind of dropping the 0 point. And from there, we can turn that into a fraction. From there, we can simplify that fraction. So we can divide both by 25, which leaves us with 1/4. For our second one, for B, we've got 2.385. We can count how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will be in the thousands. And we'll get rid of the point here and do 2,385 divided by 1,000. From there we can simplify, and we can divide both by 5. Okay, so 77 over 200. And from there, I don't think we can simplify any further, so that will be our answer. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do in this video is comparing fractions. So if you have a question like this, which is larger, 12/20ths or 3/5? How do you know which is larger? Well, what you have to do is you have to compare common denominators. So to do that, we're going to look at all the multiples of 5 and 20. So 5, 10, 15. I'm sure some of you can do this in your head, but for those that can't, or those that need to see the working, we'll do it here. So our lowest common multiple is 20. So then we're going to convert our 3/5 to 20th so that we can compare things. Okay, so 3/5 to 20th. So to do that, we have to multiply both our numerator and our denominator by 4, which will give us 12 over 20, and then we can compare. So is 12 over 20 or 12 over 20 bigger? So we know that therefore these fractions are equal. So you've just converted to the same denominator, and then we can compare our fractions. Hopefully this video was short and sharp and makes sense to you. If you do need any help with anything, make sure you come and see me in class.